Okay, so let's start with the super quick revision, last day revision for the second chapter of GST, that is supply under GST. Okay, this revision I'm taking from the super quick revision notes or last day revision notes. Yes, I have uploaded these notes on our website arpitatulsian.com. You can go to the free notes section, you can download it from there, or alternatively you can download it from my Telegram channel also. Yes, can we start with it, everyone? Okay, simple chapter but important chapter. When I taught you this chapter in the lectures, I told you that please divide, whenever you are studying, please divide it in three parts. First part is going to be definition, second part is going to be section number 7, and third part is going to be section number 8. Starting with the first part, that is your important definitions, because we need to understand a few terms before we go ahead. Okay, first two terms that we need to understand here is the definition of goods, and the next one is definition of services. What will be considered as goods, what will be considered as services. So in goods, every kind of movable property will be considered as goods, but other than money and securities. Okay, money and securities is something which is not considered as goods, plus we will study later that it is not even considered as services, but it will include, okay, goods definition will include all your actionable claims, including your specified actionable claims. Yes, actionable claims will be included, grass will be included, growing crops will be included, which is as of now attached to the land and which is going to be severed before you enter into the contract of the sale, or at the time of entering into the contract of sale, it is going to be severed from the land. All these things are included in the term called as goods. Okay, most important thing to be remembered here is, one is movable property, another thing is money and securities will never form part of goods. So any transaction which is involving shares, okay, shares, debentures, securities, or money directly involved in it, that will never be considered as goods. Okay, next time if I ask you actionable claims, so yes, it is considered as a goods. So actionable claims include specified actionable claims, so even specified actionable claim will be considered as goods. Ma'am, what do you mean by specified actionable claims? We have got the definition coming later, don't worry about it. Okay, and then there was a clarification given here that whenever a holding company is purchasing shares in the subsidiary company, for which the subsidiary company is going to get the consideration on that transaction also, there will be no GST applicable, because this is not considered as supply of goods at all. Right? Then next one is something called as services. First of all, anything other than goods will be considered as services, but money and securities is excluded here also. So can we say goods is excluded, because goods will be called as goods and money and securities are additionally excluded. And you know what is the common point for money and securities? Money and securities is excluded from the definition of goods also, plus it is excluded from the definition of services also. Are you understanding this? Yes, that is one point. Another point is, whenever there is any activity relating to use of money, okay, whenever there is any activity in relation to use of money in which the currency is converted from one form to another, okay, rupees is getting converted into dollars, okay, or the money is getting converted into securities. Okay, example, I have cash available with me and with that I am purchasing some shares. So can we say there is some conversion happening from one form to another? And for this, if there is a separate consideration charged, then in that case, that will be considered as a service. Okay, example, when we are converting your rupees into dollars or vice versa, or rupees into any other currency, then in that case there will be some brokerage and commission that will be charged by the money exchanger. That is a service. That commission part is a service, on that GST will be applicable. Similarly, let's say when I'm purchasing shares by giving money, okay, on this transaction there is no GST applicable, but the stockbroker is going to charge some brokerage from me. On that the GST will be applicable. Understanding this? Yes, this was the meaning of the term goods and services. Going on to the next definition. Please don't by heart it, but just try to understand it. What all things will be included in the term called as business? First of all, why are we studying the term business? Because anything which is done in the course or furtherance of business, only that will come under the purview of GST. That is, anything done for personal purpose generally does not attract GST. So for that purpose, we need to understand the meaning of the term called as business. Now, business will include all your trades, all the types of business, manufacturing, wholesaling, retailing. Okay, profession is also included in the term called as business. Vocation, Okay, small courses, etc., where carpentry work is done, mobile repairing is done, even that is considered as a business. Then wager, that is betting activity, then adventurous activity, all these will be included in the term called as business. Now, whether or not there is a volume in the business, okay, whether or not there is a regular frequency in the business, whether or not the business is earning profits or losses, doesn't matter. Okay, everything will be included in the term called as business. Then similarly, purchase of capital assets, sale of capital asset, purchase of capital asset at the time of starting the business, sale of capital assets at the time of closing of business, even this will be included in the term called as business. Okay, then any services provided by a clubs, association, societies to its members, okay, even for a consideration obviously, then even that will be considered as business. Okay, then any person who is holding a position and that person is rendering any services, let's say secretary of a society is rendering services to the society, even that is considered as a business. Horse racing activities by use of that machine called as totalizator, if you can recollect, yes, where all the bets are placed, where all the bets are recorded, even that is considered as a business. And any service or any service or any activity which is done by the government for public, okay, any activity which is done by the government for the general public, even that is considered as a business. So business definition, first of all, it is an inclusive definition. Okay, it is an inclusive definition. All these things will be included in the term called as business. Right? Then the next one is something called as consideration. Very, very important definition. Now, whenever there is any supply, okay, let's say if I'm supplying, if I'm giving any goods or if I'm giving any services, can I say I should be getting some consideration in return? Now, that consideration can be monetary, that can be non-monetary, that can be in form of any activity, that can be in form of any forbearance. Okay, means I am giving you some services and you give me a promise that you will not do that thing in return. That is called as forbearance. All these will be included in the type of consideration. But if you have received any subsidy, okay, if you have received any subsidy from central government or state government only, then that will never form part of your consideration. They say that that is not your consideration. So on that there will be never any GST applicable. Acha. And in case of deposits, okay, if you have received any refundable deposit, means you are going to refund it back to the other person, then even that is not considered as a consideration, because anyway you will pay it back. It is a refundable deposit. Okay, but if it is a non-refundable deposit, then in that case that amount will be considered as a consideration. Okay, person definition, you can do it on your own. Person definition, just like you, similar to your income tax, individual, HUF, company, LLP, partnership firm, any body corporate, any corporation, whether Indian or foreign, a cooperative society, any other society registered under the Society Registration Act, any trust, any artificial juridical person, any AOP, BOI, etc. All these people are included in the term called as person. Right? Then the next one is the definition of recipient. Now there are two terms important. Now one is the supplier and the other one is the recipient. Okay, in our example, can I say I am the supplier and you are the recipient? First, let's understand the meaning of the term supplier. Supplier definition is very, very simple. Any person who is supplying, okay, any person who is supplying the goods or services will be considered as the supplier. Okay, if this supply is done on my behalf by my agent, okay, by my agent, then that agent will also be considered as what? Then that agent will also be considered as a supplier. And yes, supplier of specified actionable claims will also be considered as a supplier. Okay, we will see specified actionable claims. Example, you must be already knowing: betting, gambling, lottery, online money gaming, etc. The one who is providing such activities or the one who are entering into such activities, those people will be considered as the supplier. Example, Dream 11. Dream 11 is an example of your online money gaming. Okay, online money gaming is one of the example of your specified actionable claim. So can we say Dream 11 company will be considered as the supplier? Are you understanding this? Okay, the one who supplies will be considered as the supplier, and the one who receives, okay, the one who receives and the one who is liable to pay what? The one who is liable to pay me the consideration, that person will be considered as the recipient. Okay, check this everyone. A recipient for goods and services, if there is a consideration involved, if there is, means you are going to pay me some consideration, it is not a free transaction, then in that case the person who is liable to pay the consideration will be considered as the recipient. Let's say I am providing you paid lectures. Okay, I'm the supplier of those lectures. You are the recipient. Who is liable to pay the consideration? You are liable to pay the consideration. So you will be considered as the recipient. Okay, now let's say now I'm providing you free lectures. Okay, now I'm providing you free lectures. I am the supplier. You are the recipient. Since there is no consideration involved, the person who is actually receiving those goods or services will be considered as the recipient, and plus it will also include the agent. Let's say when I am providing you, you are the recipient, but now I am providing it to you, your agent, on your behalf. Let's say I am selling you some goods and I am selling it to your agent. So agent will be considered as the recipient. Yes. Okay. Then after that, few more terms called as taxable supply, exempt supply, nil rated supply, non-taxable supply. Super duper important. Okay. This is going to give you a whole clarity. Now, first of all, they are telling what are the types of supply. So first type of supply is going to be your taxable supply, on which GST is going to be applicable, and this taxable supply includes your zero rated supply. I had given you one example of zero rated supply. Zero rated supply is going to include your exports. Okay. Exports. On exports, sometimes there is GST applicable, sometimes there is GST not applicable, but still it is included in the term called as zero rated supply. We will understand it in further chapters. Okay, as of now I am not going into that detail, but as of now just remember, export will be considered as a zero rated supply, and zero rated supply is a part of taxable supply on which GST is applicable. So the other part is to be called as what? Other part is to be called as exempt supply, on which GST is not there. In exempt supply, they have given you three types of supply. First one is your nil rated supply, where the rate of GST return besides the HSN or SAC is going to be 0%. Next one is going to be your wholly exempt supply, which is going to be wholly exempt by way of a notification. And third one is going to be your non-taxable supply, that is your 1 plus 5 products, which is totally outside the purview of GST. Example can be those 1 plus 5 products. Are you understanding this? Yes. Okay, so first supply is your taxable supply, second supply is your exempt supply. Okay, please don't do the mistake of writing non-taxable supply there. The second type of supply is going to be exempt supply. Within exempt supply, you have got the non-taxable supply. Yes, the next three definitions, you can do it on your own. I'll just discuss it quickly. Agent is a person, by whatever name you want to call that person, you can call. That person can be called as the factor, that person can be called as the broker, that person can be called as the agent, that person can be called as Delcredar agent, that person can be called as Ahartiya, etc. And he is such a person who is working on behalf of someone else. Okay, he's working on behalf of whom? He's working on behalf of the principal. Acha, then how will you define principal? Principal is that main person on whose behalf the agent is working. Okay, that person will be called as the principal. And last one, manufacturer. Normal meaning of manufacturer. First of all, the person who does manufacturing is called as the manufacturer. Right, that person is called as the manufacturer. And why is that activity called as manufacturing? Because you are going to put raw materials and you are going to get the finished goods. So can we say there is an emergence or there is an invention of a new product which is coming into picture? That is your manufacturing activity. Okay, then after that, the next definitions coming up here. Next definition first is of money. Okay, money normally means cash, check, okay, online money, then your demand draft, pay order, okay, traveler's check, bills of exchange, promissory notes, etc. Everything can be denominated in money, na? So that is considered as a term called as money, but exception, but shall not include any currency that is held for its numismatic value. Okay, if you are holding any currency, not for the purpose of doing any transaction in it, but for the purpose of collection. Okay, example, collection of old coins, collection of ancient coins, etc. That will not be included in the term called as money. And if you are doing any selling of those coins, then on that GST will be applicable because that is not included in the term called as money. Are you understanding this? Yes. Then after that, going on to the next definition, that is the definition of family. Very, very important from the point of view of section number 7. Now, in section number 7, in the definition of family, who all will be included. So, the spouse let's talk about my family. So in my family, my spouse will be included. Okay, my children will be included. They will be included in the term called as family. Who else will be included? My parents will be included, my grandparents will be included, my brothers will be included, my sisters will be included. These four people will be included only if they are wholly and mainly dependent on me. Okay, about spouse and children, you don't have to check anything. They are anyway forming part of your family. But parents, grandparents, brother, sister, they will always be included in the term. They will be included in the term called as family only if they are wholly or mainly dependent upon me. Right? Then after that, another term called as online gaming. Before I do the term called as online gaming, let's do the definition of specified actionable claims. Okay, now specified actionable claims include 6 things: betting, casinos, gambling, horse racing, lottery, or online money gaming. Okay, these 6 are included in the term called as specified actionable claim. Specified actionable claim is included in the term called as actionable claim. Actionable claim is included in the term called as goods. Okay, and this we will study later. Whenever we are doing any activity or any transaction in relation to specified actionable claim, it is going to be taxable under GST. Yes, now online money gaming example just now we took of Dream11. Okay, now see what are they telling. First of all, online gaming is going to include online money gaming. Okay, now see, online gaming, if we just use the word online gaming, okay, in case of online gaming, it is not necessary that there is money involved. Okay, I am playing any game over internet, that is called as online gaming. But if I am playing any game in which money is involved, then that will be called as online money gaming, and online money gaming will be forming part of specified actionable claims. Okay, what happens in case of online money gaming? You put some money, okay, you pay some money, money's worth, or some virtual digital assets, example crypto. Okay, you pay this into that particular app, you make a team, etc. And with the chance, with the hope that you will win some money. Okay, with the hope that you will win some money. Now that can be skill based, that can be luck based, that can be chance based, etc. And whether or not that is legal here in India. Such a activity is called as what? Such a activity is called as online money gaming, and this will be chargeable to GST. Okay, where you put some money, you play that game with the expectation that you're going to win the same things. Right? Okay, then after that, going to the next three definitions. One is meaning of a related person, then distinct person, and then establishment of distinct persons. Actually, these references are going to come in section number 7, but we have taken all the definitions together so that later we can directly go ahead with the procedures, with the provisions. Yes. Now, meaning of related persons. Now, related persons generally means that if someone is under my influence or if I am under someone else's influence, then we both are considered as related persons. Okay, now as per the purpose of GST or for the purpose of GST, who will be considered as a related person? Let's try to understand that. Okay, employer, employee are related persons. A company and its officers or directors are considered as related persons. Business partners are considered as related person. If I am holding more than or equal to 25% of the shares in 2 different companies, then these 2 different companies will be called as related persons. If these 2 companies are controlling a third person, then also these 2 companies will be called as related persons. Okay, if one company is controlling the other company, generally holding company subsidiary, then they will be considered as related person. Okay, if we are members of the same family definition we had done. Okay, if we are members of the same family, we will be considered as related person. If I am the principal and you are my sole agent, means you are acting as an agent only for me, then we will be considered as related persons. Are you understanding this? Yes. Okay, then after that, going to the next one, that is distinct persons. Okay, distinct persons, try to understand. Now in GST generally, the person who is having a single PAN, okay, income tax PAN, that person will have to take state-wise registration. Okay, he will have to take state-wise registration under GST. That is, from every state from where he is making a taxable supply, he will have to go and apply for the GST registration. Right? Now, let's say there is a particular company and it is having 2 different offices, one in Maharashtra, another one in Tamil Nadu. Then in that case, these 2 will be taking 2 separate GST registrations, and these 2 offices will be called as what? These 2 offices will be called as distinct persons. Okay, let's say even if we are situated within the same state, then ideally 2 different registrations is not required, but still we have taken 2 different registrations, then too we will be called as distinct persons. Why? One PAN, multiple GST numbers, we will be called as distinct persons. Right? Then similarly, establishment of distinct persons. Imagine one of the office is registered in Maharashtra and it is making a taxable supply. Okay, another office is, let's say, situated in Tamil Nadu. From there I am making a non-taxable supply. Let's say I am selling alcoholic liquor from there. So can we say I am not required to get myself registered there? If I am not required to get registered there, then in that case, but still there are 2 different offices. One is registered, one is unregistered. One is making taxable supply, one is not making a taxable supply. So these 2 officers will be called as what? These 2 officers will be called as establishment of distinct persons. Are you understanding this? Yes? Okay. Now see, whatever definitions we have studied in this chapter, those are covered in section number 2 of the CGST Act. Then whatever we are going to study ahead, that is section number 7 and section number 8, even that is forming part of the CGST Act. Okay, that is forming part of the CGST Act. Ma'am, does it mean that whatever we are going to study, whatever we have studied and whatever we are going to study is applicable only to the intrastate transaction? So the answer is no. Obviously no, it is applicable to all the types of transaction, that is interstate as well as intrastate. Ma'am, how do you know this? Because the provisions of scope of supply under CGST have also been made applicable to the IGST Act wide section 20 of the IGST Act. So whatever we are going to study in section number 7, section number 8, etc., that is going to be applicable to both CGST also as well as to IGST, or we can say it will be applicable to intrastate provisions also as well as interstate provisions also. Understanding this much? Yes. Okay, now let's start with the most important section of the chapter, that is section number 7. Okay, section number 7 talks about concept of supply. Now supply includes 4 sections within it. Okay, it will include section number 71A, 71AA, 71B and 71C. Okay, in section number 71C, we are also going to see the provisions of schedule number 1, and whatever transactions are mentioned in these 4 sections, whatever transactions are mentioned in these 4 sections, that will be included in the term called as supply. Okay, so first we will have to check whether it is a supply, then we will check whether it is goods or services, then we will check whether it is taxable supply. If all the conditions are fulfilled, then we are going to levy GST on that particular transaction. Yes, now see what is given in section number 71A. 71A simply says that there is some supply. Okay, there is some supply of goods or services. Okay, there can be various forms of supply. Now, it can be in the form of sale, it can be in the form of lease, rental, hire, barter, exchange, transfer from one place to another. Any such forms of supply is done of goods or services, and it is done for the purpose of consideration. Means when we are doing this supply, we are going to receive some consideration, and this is done in the course or furtherance of business. Means we are not doing it for a personal purpose, we are doing it in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, if all of these conditions are fulfilled, then such a transaction will be considered as supply. Are you understanding this? Let's say I am selling you that particular AC remote. Okay, I am selling you this particular AC remote which I am going to sell you for some consideration, and it is my normal business to sell AC remote. So this transaction will be considered as a supply normally as per section number 71A. Okay, now in this, one of the important parameter was it should be done for some consideration. Means consideration should be received from the other end. Now we have got 2 special points coming for the purpose of consideration. Consideration definition we have already done. Okay, now see what are they telling us here. Now they are telling that, let's say you have donated some amount to a charitable trust or to any particular trust. Okay, you have done some donation, and in return you are not getting anything. Means you did that particular donation out of natural love, affection, philanthropic purpose, etc. For that purpose you did, but you are not going to get anything in return. Means is there any consideration or there is no consideration? There is no consideration. So whatever amount of donation you gave, on that GST is applicable or GST is not applicable? On that GST is not applicable because there is no consideration in return. Okay, but let's say I have given you the donation, and in return I am getting something. Okay, let's say in return the charitable trust has put my big advertisement, has put my big hoarding, then can we say I am receiving some consideration in return? So on that donation GST will be applicable. Okay, so you have to see whether you are getting anything in return or not. If you are getting anything in return, then yes, that is a consideration. If you are not getting anything in return, then that is not a consideration. Yes. Okay. Then second point that I wanted to tell you about this consideration was, let's say if we have sent some artwork, some painting, some drawings, etc. to an art gallery for exhibition, for the purpose of putting in exhibition, will that be considered as a supply now? Answer is no. Why it will not be considered as a supply? Because as of now we are not getting any consideration. As of now we are simply sending it for the purpose of display. So ma'am, when will GST be applicable on this transaction? GST will be applicable on this transaction only when the paintings, drawings, artwork, etc. is sold and when we receive the consideration. Okay, so just sending is not enough. You have to also see whether you are receiving any consideration in return or not. Okay, all these things were coming under which section number? It was coming under section number 7(1)(a), which had 3 pointers within it. First of all, there should be various forms of supply. Okay, second one, it should be done for some consideration. And last one, it should be done in the course or furtherance of business. Then this transaction will be considered as a supply. Okay, then going on to the next section, that is section number 7(1)(a). 7(1)(a) was a very specific section which says that if there is any activities or transaction which is done between two category of person, first one is other than individual, okay, and next one is the individual. Okay, if there is any activity or transaction done between a person other than individual with its members or to its members, individual members or constituents, any activity or transactions which is done by a person other than individual to its members or constituents, or vice versa, that is individual members are giving some supply of goods or services to its entity. Okay, and if this is done for some consideration, then even this transaction will be considered as a supply. Why it will be considered as a supply? Because entity other than individual and its members are considered as two separate persons. Okay, example, let's say there is a resident welfare association, there is a cooperative society who is providing some service to its members, for which members are paying some consideration. Then this transaction will be considered as a supply. Why? First of all, there is a consideration involved. Secondly, resident welfare association and members, even if members are a part of this RWA, still they will be considered as two different persons. Na? RWA will be considered as an association, member will be considered as an individual. These are two different persons. Therefore, whenever there is any supply from one person to another or from another person to the first person for a consideration, it will always be considered as a supply. Which section number? Section number 7(1)(a). Okay, then going on to the next one is important. Section number 7(1)(b). What does section number 7(1)(b) talks about? 7(1)(b) talks about importation of services for a consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. Let's say you have imported some services obviously from outside India, and you have paid a consideration also, not for free, consideration is there. But whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, means you have imported it either for your business or for your personal purpose, doesn't matter. Okay, this point is the only exception point where you are importing the service even for your personal purpose, then also it will be considered as a supply. Okay, otherwise in the previous point everything was done in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, please remember this point. This is very, very important. You have imported, let's say I have taken architect services from outside India. I have paid some consideration and that architect services I have taken for designing my house. Still this transaction will be considered as a supply, right? Then going on to the next one, that is section number 7(1)(c). 7(1)(c) was talking about transactions which are done without consideration. Now listen, in 7(1)(a), 7(1)(a) and 7(1)(b), in all of these three sections, consideration was involved. Okay, 7(1)(c) is such a section where the transaction is done for free, fukat. Okay, the transaction is done for free in the course or furtherance of business. Still it will be considered as a deemed supply, means it will be considered as a supply, and if it is a taxable supply, then GST will be applicable on the same. Now there will be 4 transactions mentioned here under schedule number 1 from para 1 to para 4. Okay, para 1 to para 4 of schedule number 1, there are 4 transactions mentioned here. Okay, and these transactions are done without any consideration. Still this transaction will be considered as a deemed supply. Okay, first one, starting with first one, that is para number 1. Para number 1 says that, let's say you have got some business assets. Okay, I've got some plant and machinery, I've got a motor car, or if I've got a any air conditioner or something like that. That was my business asset, and at the time of purchasing the business asset, I had taken the ITC on the same. I had claimed the ITC on the same. Means I took the benefit of the tax paid. Yes, and now you are permanently transferring or disposing of those business assets for free. See, first you purchased it, you took the ITC also on it. Now you are selling it, and at the time of selling it, you are selling it for free, zero consideration. If you are selling it for free, means you will not pay any tax on it. So government says this transaction will be considered as a deemed supply. Means when you will sell it even for free, then also GST will be applicable on the same. Why? Because earlier when you purchased it, you took the GST benefit. Now you are selling it for free, so you are not paying any GST. Allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. So government says whenever you are selling it for zero consideration, then it will be considered as a deemed supply. Okay, example, holding company selling assets permanently to subsidiary company for free. Earlier these transactions were outside the purview of GST, but now they are telling GST will be applicable on the same. Okay, similarly, para number 2. Para number 2 of schedule number 1 says that if there is any supply of goods, both ways, incoming or outgoing, if there is any supply of goods or services between related persons or between distinct persons done for zero consideration in the course or furtherance of business, then even that will be considered as what? Even that will be considered as a supply. Why supply? Because generally transactions between related persons, distinct persons, etc., they are done at zero value now. So government says this is a loophole. Okay, this is the loophole, and whenever these people enter into a transaction for zero consideration, then this will be considered as deemed supply. Okay, GST will be applicable. But here there were two clarifications that was introduced. First clarification was about employer-employee. Do you recollect in the definition of related party also employer-employee was included? Okay, what does that mean? That means that employer-employee are also related persons, and if there are any supply of goods or services between employer-employee, then even that will be liable to GST. Okay, so first of all, they say that if there is any services provided by employee to my employer, okay, which is done in the course or furtherance of employment, then GST is not applicable. This you will study later when we do schedule number 3 in this particular chapter. Okay, I am providing employment services, he gives me salary allowances, perquisites. On that GST is not applicable because it is specifically excluded by schedule number 3. Okay, but what if, and in that case anyway there was a consideration also involved now. We are giving services plus we are getting something. Now, what if employer gives some gift to the employee? If employer is giving some gift to the employee which is for no consideration, if it is for no consideration, can we call it as a transaction between related persons for zero consideration? So they say that if the value of gift per annum per employee is up to 50,000, then there will be no GST applicable. But if it goes above 50,000, then the entire value of gifts will be taxable, because this is such a supply between related person which is done for zero consideration. Right? And another one was clarification on molds and dies. Okay, let's say there is an original equipment manufacturer, let's say Samsung company, Apple company, etc. Original equipment manufacturer is giving some molds, okay, some empty molds, etc. to the component manufacturer, example to the battery manufacturers, for free. Okay, he is giving for free to the component manufacturer so that the component manufacturer can make that particular component as per the required size, dimensions, etc. Now, this mold which is given for free to the component manufacturer, will this be considered as a supply or it will not be considered as a supply, considering it is for zero consideration? Can we say if it is for zero consideration, then it will be considered as a supply only if the transaction is done between related person? Okay, but here it is not done between related person. Original equipment manufacturer and component manufacturer are totally unrelated persons. They are not even distinct persons. So no GST means this transaction will not be considered as a supply. Yes. Okay. Then after that, para 3 to schedule number 1. Okay. In this para number 3, they are telling that what if there is a transaction done between principal and the final person through an agent? Okay, in between, in middle, we have got an agent available. Okay, let's say there is a transaction done between principal to agent to the final customer. Means principal wanted to sell the goods to the customer, and this transaction was done through an agent. So here what happened? Let's say agent issued the invoice in the name of the customer. So here they are telling that even this transaction, that is the transaction between principal to agent, even this will be considered as supply of goods. Means it will be considered as if principal has supplied the goods to the agent and then the agent has also supplied the goods to the customer, and this will be considered as to supply of goods. Okay, but when this will be considered as supply of goods, see, there will be a commission transaction also, but now we are not calling it a supply of services, we are calling this transaction as supply of goods between principal to agent, because agent has further sold the goods to the customer in his own name. So only when the agent is issuing the invoice to the customer in his own name, only then the transaction between principal to agent will be considered as a supply. Okay, this is applicable when principal is selling the goods to the customer through an agent, or the principal is purchasing the goods from the supplier through an agent. Okay, which transaction are we talking about? We are talking about the transaction between principal to agent. This will be considered as what? This will be considered as supply of goods if agent has issued the invoice in his own name. Right? And the last one is your para number 4. What does para number 4 talk about? Para number 4 talks about importation of services. Okay, in section 7.1b also we studied about importation of services, but that was for a consideration. Your importation of services is for zero consideration. And from whom have we imported the services? Either we have imported it from our related person, or we have imported it from any of our establishment which is situated outside India. Okay, let's say I have a related person who is situated outside India. From him I am importing some services and I am not paying anything because he is my related person. So they are telling that this transaction will still be considered as a supply, provided it is done in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, so that one, 7.1b you will apply when there is importation of services, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, and for a consideration. Whereas section 7.1c or schedule 1 para number 4 you will apply when there is importation of services from our related person or from any of our establishment outside India, which is done for free and which is done in the course or furtherance of business. Right? Then there is a normal clarification issued here for the purpose of no consideration, that what if you have distributed some free samples, what if you have distributed some free gifts to your customers, etc. Then even if it is done for no consideration, it will not be considered as a supply, because this is not a supply between related persons. Okay, only as per para number 2, do you recollect? Only if it is a supply between related persons or distinct person for zero consideration, then only it will be considered as a supply. Okay, so giving free samples, giving free gifts, etc., that will never be considered as a supply. And last one, you must have seen such sale promotion offers like buy one get one free, etc. Okay, in this cases they are telling that whatever amount you pay, okay, whatever amount you pay, either you pay for one product or you pay for two products, okay, whatever discounted price you pay, on that GST will always be applicable. Okay, it will be considered as supply of two products at the price of one. So GST will anyway be applicable on the same. Right? Then going on to the next one, this was all about, okay, till here everything was talking about section number 7.1. okay, whatever we studied in section number 7.1, that will be included in the term called as supply, and on that we will have to go ahead and check the leviability of GST. Okay, leviability of GST. Okay, now just try to understand. Next section is your section number 7.1a plus schedule number 2, where we are going to do the classification that whether a particular transaction is supply of goods or supply of services. Now we don't have to decide whether it is a supply or it is not a supply. Okay, let's assume that it is a supply. We just have to see whether it is supply of goods or supply of services. Okay, so whenever, just try to understand, whenever there is a transfer of title, I am transferring the ownership, it will always be considered a supply of goods. When I am giving the right to someone to use that particular asset, it will always be considered a supply of services. Okay, when I am transferring the title, where the title is actually going to get transferred at a future date, example hire purchase, etc., even that will be considered a supply of goods. Okay, when you are giving your land, building, etc. on lease, on hire, etc., even that will be considered a supply of service, because there is no transfer of title happening there. Then when you are sending the goods to someone else for doing a job work on it, for doing some embroidery on it, that the other person is going to do some supply of services on my clothes only. So this will be considered as supply of services. Okay, then the next one, that is transfer of business assets. Okay, transfer of business assets. Now, what is going to happen here? Let's say you're transferring, you're selling your business assets permanently. That will be considered a supply of goods because there is a permanent disposal. Okay, if you are putting your business assets for private use, or you're giving it to someone else for private use, that will be considered a supply of service because there is no transfer of title happening, right? If suppose you are going to wind up your business and now you are selling your stock in trade, you're clearing your stock in trade, that will be considered as supply of goods because ownership is going to go to the other person, right? Then fifth para, very, very important. A point is simple. What if there is renting of immovable property? Okay, renting of immovable property will be considered as what? That will be considered as supply of service because it is again renting, and this renting also includes your tenancy premium. Do you recollect? I explained you the meaning of tenancy premium in both regular batch as well as fast track batch, where we are paying some amount. The new tenant is going to pay some amount to the old tenant because the old tenant had created some additions in the value, etc. Even that will be considered as supply of service. And most important here is para number 5b. Okay, so whenever we are purchasing any building, part of a building, complex, immovable property, etc., which is under construction, okay, which is under construction, that is before the CC or first occupation, so that will be considered as construction service, that is, it will be considered as supply of service. But if we are paying entire consideration after CC or first occupation, whichever is earlier, then in that case it will be considered as if you are purchasing an immovable property. So on that, GST will never come because it is neither considered as supply of goods nor considered as supply of services. Okay, generally completion certificate is required from whom? Generally completion certificate is required from the government or any local authority. What if it is not required? Then you can simply obtain it from the architect, you can obtain it from the chartered engineer, or you can obtain it from a licensed surveyor. Yes, okay, then similar points coming under this. What if you have transferred your copyright or patent to someone else for using it, only for using it? You will charge some royalty for that. That will be considered as supply of services. Okay, then after that, what if you have given your software to someone else for customizing it, or you are taking the services of customization of a program, customization of a software, etc. Even that will be considered as supply of service. See, there is no goods involved here now. Yes, so that will be considered as supply of service. Then you are agreeing to someone's obligation, or you are refraining to do some particular act for some consideration, non-competition fee, non-compete fee, etc. Then that will be considered as supply of services only. Okay, then similarly, we had seen for liquidated damages, penalty, breach of contract. At that time, what if there is some consideration that I have received for tolerating the breach of contract? Even that will be liable to GST. Why? Why? Because first of all, there is a consideration flowing from one person to another. Secondly, there was a separate agreement. Okay, there was a specific agreement that if the other party does the breach of contract, that person is required to pay us the consideration. Why consideration? Because we are tolerating the act of breach of contract, right? Then another one was about the no claim bonus. No claim bonus which is deducted from the premium that is payable by us to the insurance company. So we are not providing any service to the insurance company for which it is giving me some discount in the form of no claim bonus. No, so it is never forming part of consideration. Okay, that will never form part of consideration, and whatever is your balance amount on that, GST will be applicable, right? Then after that, the next one, what if you are giving the goods, okay, not the assets, but what if you are giving the goods to someone else for using it? Again, it will be considered as supply of service, right? Then the next one talks about, last point, it talks about composite supplies. Only two composite supply. One is works contract. Okay, in works contract, it relates to immovable property, where goods is also involved plus labor, service is also involved. So they say that there will be a confusion that whether GST, whether it will be considered as supply of goods or whether it will be considered as supply of services. So they clarified that it will always be considered as supply of services, and same clarification they gave for restaurant also. Other than alcoholic liquor for human consumption, it will always be considered as supply of service only. Yes, with this, second part of section number 7 is done. First part of section number 7 was inclusions. What all things will come under the term called as supply. Second part was section number 7(1)(a) or schedule number 2, where they have listed whether it will be considered as supply of goods or supply of services. Okay, going to the last part, that is supply, things which are going to be excluded. Okay, things which are going to be excluded from the term called as supply. First that is given in section number 7(2)(a) and schedule number 3. Okay, in schedule number 3, first let's do the basic 6 transactions which are not considered as a supply. First one, any services given by the employee to the employer in the course of his employment. Okay, any services given by employee to the employer in the course of employment. For that we will receive salary, perquisites, allowances. On that there is never any GST applicable. Okay, but if there is any director who is working in professional capacity and he is giving his services to the company, he is not an employee, then GST will be applicable. Okay, then next one, any services provided by court or tribunal, okay, for which the court charges something called as court fees, right? On that GST will never apply. It is neither considered as supply of goods nor considered as supply of services. Okay, third one, let's say there is any function, or let's say there are any duties which are performed by MP, MLAs, member of municipal corporation, member of local authority, and for which they are getting some remuneration. On that also GST is not applicable. Let's say there is a person who is performing some duties because of constitutional powers. Okay, because of constitutional powers, example, President of India, Prime Minister of India, CAG, Comptroller, Auditor General, UPSC Chairman, etc. Can we say these people have got the powers from the Constitution and they are serving our country? So whatever consideration they get in return, on that also there is no GST applicable. Okay, then the next one, what if there are some duties performed by a chairperson, by a director, by a president who is holding such position in a body which is established by central government, state government, etc. Okay, example, your president or your chairman of SEBI. SEBI is a body which is formed under Central Government Act, right? So the chairperson, if he is getting any remuneration, on that also there is no GST applicable. President of ICAI. ICAI is a body which is set up under an act of parliament. What if he is getting any remuneration, ICAI president? Then also GST is not applicable. These people are not considered as an employee. Chairman of SEBI is not considered as employee of SEBI. Okay, president of ICAI is not considered as ICAI employee, etc. So whatever remuneration they are getting, on that GST is not applicable, because this is neither considered as supply of goods nor considered as supply of service. Okay, then the services given at the time of death of a person, funeral, crematorium, burial, mortuary services, transportation of deceased person, etc. On that also there is no GST applicable. Right? Then next one is again very important. Here also 5th point important, schedule 2 also 5th point important. Okay, sale of land. Sale of land is neither considered as supply of goods nor considered as supply of services. Sale of building will not be considered as supply of goods or services when it is fully constructed. Remember that point. Okay, sale of building subject to para 5b of schedule number 2. That is if you have paid the entire consideration, after CC or first occupation, it will not be considered as supply of goods nor supply of services. Okay, and one more point here was, whenever there is any sale of land, at that time also there is no GST applicable, because it is considered as an immovable property. Now, if you are selling the barren land, then also no GST. If you are selling a developed land, then also there is no GST. If you are selling a leveled land, then also no GST. If you are selling a land with drainage pipe, after fixing the drainage pipes, etc., there also there will be no GST, because ultimately what you are selling is the land, right? And last common point which is coming up here in schedule number 3 is actionable claims other than specified actionable claims. Okay, actionable claims other than specified actionable claims are considered as non-supplies. Okay, means only specified actionable claims will be considered as a supply. Other actionable claims are not considered as a supply. So that betting, lottery, gambling, horse racing, casinos, online money gaming, on that GST is applicable as supply of goods. Why goods? Specified actionable claim forming part of actionable claim forming part of goods. Right? Acha, now these 6 pointers are applicable for CA Inter. Next 2 pointers are not applicable for CA Inter, that is to be referred only by the CA final students. Now in that, one of the point was out and out supplies. Okay, out and out supplies, that is, you're sitting in India, you're purchasing the goods from one country and selling to another country. The goods are not at all touching India. On this transaction, there will be no GST applicable. Okay, next one. What if you are selling some goods? You are selling some imported goods while the goods are kept in the warehouse before clearing for home consumption. The goods are kept in the custom bonded warehouse and you have not yet cleared the goods, means on that tax liability is not yet arisen. So in that case, while the goods are kept in the warehouse, you are simply transferring the title to someone else. On this transaction, there will be no GST. GST will come, but only when that goods are further cleared from the warehouse, right? Then after that, the next one, let's say you are importing the goods from the other country and the goods are in high seas now. They have not even touched India. And while the goods are in high seas, now you are selling it to someone else by transferring the title documents to it. On that also, as of now, there will be no GST. GST will come when the goods are imported into India, cleared from the warehouse. At that time, GST will be applicable on it. Okay, so CA inter students 6 points will be applicable here. CA final students total 8 points will be considered as non-supplies, and all these were given in which schedule number? All these were given in schedule number 3. Okay, then last 4 transactions, 2 plus 2 transactions, which are again not considered as a supply. Now, these 2 transactions are given in section number 7(2)(b), where the government has cleared by way of a notification that the following 2 transactions are not considered as a supply. All the transactions are done by whom? Both of these transactions are done by the central government, state government, or the local authority. What are they telling us here? They are telling us here is, let's say first transaction. Okay, if there is any activity which is undertaken by the government, okay, any activity which is undertaken by the government as public authority, which was originally the responsibility of panchayat or municipality, etc. Okay, means the panchayat or municipality were told by the constitution that you have to take care of so and so things, but that thing was not done by them. It was in fact done by the central government or state government. Then in that case, they are telling that no GST. Can we say your government is providing some supply of goods or services? On that, there will be no GST applicable. Yes, example, Swachh Bharat. Okay, Swachh Bharat, cleanliness, etc. That is the responsibility of the local authorities, panchayat, municipalities, etc. But then this abhiyan, this drive was run by the government. So can we say here the services are provided by the government on this particular service or on this particular activities which is provided by the government? On that, there will be no GST applicable. And similarly, when the state government is granting you alcoholic liquor license, okay, when the state government is granting you alcoholic liquor license in consideration of a license fee, on that also there is no GST applicable. But please remember, this benefit is applicable. This benefit is applicable only for liquor license which is given by the state government and not for other licenses. Okay, other licenses, example, oil exploration license, natural gas exploration license, mining license, etc. For that, normal GST is applicable. Are you understanding this? Yes. And the last 2 points, which is talking about 2 clarifications, 2 very simple clarification which is given by the government, where the government says that whenever there is any interstate movement, okay, whenever there is interstate movement of vehicles between one place to another place, okay, at that time, and let's say it is for transportation of goods, so please treat it as supply of goods and not as supply of vehicle. Are we selling the vehicle or are we just sending the vehicle to the other place? We are just sending the vehicle to the other place. The vehicle is going to come back to its origin. So that will be considered as supply of goods and not as supply of vehicle. Okay, supply of vehicle or vehicle is considered neither as supply of goods nor supply of services. Similarly, if there are some rigs, tools, spare parts, okay, some small tools, etc. kept in that particular conveyance, kept in that particular truck, for what purpose? For what purpose? So that we can use it if the vehicle breaks down in between. Okay, if the vehicle breaks down in between, can we say we are going to use that tools, etc. to repair our vehicle? So this will not be considered as supply of rigs, tools and spare parts. Are we going to sell it to someone or are we going to self-use it? We are going to self-use it. So this will be neither considered as supply of goods nor considered as supply of services. So basically anything that is kept in the vehicle, okay, does not mean you are going to sell it. You can even use it now. Yes, and if there is a movement happening from one place to another, does not mean that it is supply of trucks. Okay, does not mean it is supply of that particular vehicle. Are you clear with this? Yes, so basically 6 or 8 transactions. Okay, 6 or 8 transactions which are mentioned in schedule 3, which is considered as a non-supply, plus 2 transactions which are considered, which are given by way of a notification, which is also not considered as a supply, plus 2 more transactions which the government has clarified, which is also not considered as a supply. Are you understanding this? Yes. Okay, then going on to the last part of the chapter. Now, before we go to section number 8, okay, before we go to section number 8, composite and mixed supply, they have given a very small clarification where they say that, now see, you have already studied the meaning of the term supply. Okay, does it mean that every supply is taxable under GST? So they say that no. Okay, you have studied the meaning of goods, you have studied the meaning of services, you have studied the meaning of supply. That is okay. But only if 2 conditions are fulfilled. First one, if the supply is made by a taxable person and if the supply that is made is a taxable supply. Okay, taxable person means a person who is either already registered under GST or the person who is liable to take the registration under GST. That person has done this supply, and such a supply is a taxable supply. Okay, such a supply is a taxable supply, means it is not a exempt supply, it is not a nil rated supply, it is not a wholly exempt supply. If both of these conditions are fulfilled, okay, only then on such transaction GST will be applicable. Right? Okay. Then going on to the next one, last section of the chapter, that is section number 8, which talks about composite and mixed supply. Okay, in case of composite and mixed supply, first of all, composite supply means when there are 2 or more supplies done. Okay, 2 or more taxable supplies done by a single person, and these supplies are naturally bundled together, means generally these 2 or more supplies goes hand in hand. Okay, and out of these 2 supplies, one of the supply is a principal supply. Okay, one of the supply is a principal supply, one is the main supply, other one is an ancillary supply. Then these supplies will be called as a composite supply. Ma'am, so what if it is called as a composite supply? If it is called as a composite supply, then on the total amount, okay, whatever is the total amount that we have charged for that supply, on that total amount, such rate of GST will be applicable as applicable on principal supply. Okay, let's say hospital medical services plus food supplied to the inpatient. Can we say there are 2 supplies done here? One is medical services, another one is food services. Let's say on medical services rate of GST, let's say on medical services rate of GST is 18%, on food it is 5%. Okay, but can we say both of these services go hand in hand? Okay, we will not go to the hospital only for eating the food. Okay, we have gone to the hospital for availing the medical services. So principal supply is medical services 18%, ancillary supply is the food services, rate of GST is equal to 5%. What will be the rate of GST applicable on the total amount? On the total amount, the rate of GST applicable is equal to the rate as applicable on the principal supply. Principal supply was 18%, medical services. So on the entire amount, the rate of GST is equal to 18%. Are you understanding this? Yes. Similarly, something called as mixed supply. Okay, now mixed supply is, again, there are 2 or more supplies, 2 or more individual supplies done by a person for a single price and a single item in the invoice. Okay, 2 or more supplies are done by a person which are not naturally bundled together. Okay, which are not naturally bundled together. You have forcefully, artificially, you have mixed those supplies, and now you are supplying it to some other person for a single price. Okay, means you are not even writing the bifurcation in the invoice. In the invoice also you have written it as a single line item only. So such a supply will be called as a mixed supply. Okay, example, you must have seen such stationery boxes are there, where one pen is there, one pencil is there, one eraser is there, one scale is there, and they make a full pouch, they make a full kit, and then they sell it. Let's say they are selling it for 100 rupees. So this 100 will be called as a mixed supply, because all those things can be sold individually also. Okay, and now on this 100, what will be the rate of GST applicable? Rate of GST will be the highest rate of tax. Can we say 4 items are provided, and in these 4 items, whichever product attracts the highest rate. Let's say first one is 18%, 28%, 18%, 18%. So can we say out of these 4, highest rate of GST is equal to 28%. So that entire 100 rupees, on that entire 100 rupees, GST will be applicable at the rate of 28%. Okay, provided it is not naturally bundled together. Okay, provided no bifurcation was shown in the invoice. In the invoice, you directly wrote it as kit at the rate of 100 rupees. Then in that case, it will be considered as a mixed supply. Understanding this? Yes. So in composite supply, your product was taxable. Your product was taxable at the rate applicable to such principal supply. But in case of mixed supply, your product is taxable at the rate applicable to the highest rate of tax on such products. Right? And last, your CBIC has given some clarification for composite supplies. Okay, means whatever is given below are your composite supply. Now you have to understand, you have to just tell me out of this composite supply, which supply is a principal supply and which supply is a ancillary supply. Okay, let's first talk about printing of books, authored books, printing of pamphlets, brochures, etc. So in that case, can we say author is going to give the content to the publisher? Yes, in PDF format, and then the publisher is going to use his paper and then finally do the printing, and then he will give me the ready-made book. Something like this. Yes. So in this case they are telling that yes, the printer is providing you paper also, plus he is providing you printing services also. Okay, but still this will be considered as, in this, it is a composite supply because both the things go hand in hand. Paper plus printing goes hand in hand. So they are telling yes, it is the composite supply. There is no doubt in that. But supply of printing will be considered as the principal supply. Okay, why supply of printing will be considered as principal supply? Why supply of printing will be considered as principal supply? Because content is more important. Okay, when you get a paper, when you get a pamphlet, when you get a brochure, the paper is not that important as compared to the content. Can we say content is more important? If content is more important, so can you tell me, is paper more important or is printing the content more important? Printing the content is more important. So supply of printing services will be considered as the principal supply, and whatever is the rate of GST applicable on printing, that will be applicable on the total amount. Okay. Similarly, what if you are getting an envelope printed, or what if you are getting a tissue paper printed? I had given you the Domino's example in the main lecture. Yes, in that case, what will happen? Okay, in that case, they are telling that yes, printer is going to provide you that blank tissue paper with your logo printed on the same. So in that case, they said that logo is not important, tissue paper. Okay, the thing which is going to be finally used, that thing is more important. So here the principal supply is going to be supply of the tissue paper, that is supply of goods. Okay, so wherever content is important, printing service will be considered as a principal supply. Wherever content is not that important, at that time supply of goods will be considered as the principal supply. Then inpatients, hospital, we have already discussed. Okay, it is a composite supply of healthcare. So healthcare will be considered as the principal supply. Then bus body building. Okay, let's say there is a particular bus of which you want to get the body builded, the outer body builded, etc. So there definitely material will also be involved, plus labor will also be involved. But the most important thing here is the involving of labor, or the work which is done by the labor. So supply of service will be considered as the principal supply. Okay. Similarly, rethreading of tires. Rethreading of tires means revamping of tires. Worn out tires are repaired. So there again, small raw material, rubber type of raw material will be used, plus labor will be used. So they say that most important thing there is labor. Okay, so this will be considered as supply of service, and in principal supply, like in your composite supply, supply of service will be considered as the principal supply. Acha, what if you are buying the rethreaded tires? What if you are buying second hand tires? Then that will be considered as supply of goods, because you are directly taking a particular product. And the last one, that is about cinema halls. Okay, let's say you are buying a movie ticket, and along with movie ticket, you are booking food also. Okay, along with movie ticket, you are booking food also. So now they are telling that yes, definitely this is a composite supply, because you are not going to the theater only for having food. Okay, so principal supply will be what? Principal supply will be movie screening. So whatever is the rate applicable on movie tickets, that will be applicable on the total amount. But later, if you go and purchase the food independently in the cinema hall, okay, if you go and purchase the food independently from the cinema hall, then what will happen? Then in that case, that will be considered as an individual supply. Okay, that will be considered as an individual supply, right? And normal rate, whatever rate is applicable on food, that will be applicable. Are you understanding here? Yes. Yes, this was all about your supply under GST chapter, that is your definitions part, section number 7, section number 8. I hope you are very clear with this. Yes, and approximately in an hour we have revised the entire big chapter.